मुझे लगा तू बोलेगा 3, 2, 1 ओवर एक्टिंग एक्शन.
Okay. Hi, Saurabh.
हाय. गुड आफ्टरनून.
Good afternoon. How are you doing?
Absolutely fine. Very
Fantastic.
refreshing, energetic.
Good to have you on the event, Saurabh. We have been wanting to have this chat for almost a month, but work and personal requirements were keeping you away from this platform. I'm finally happy that I could grab you today with both the hands and have you in front of the system today.
Same here, Rajiv. Same.
Superb, superb. So, how things? You seem to be in office?
Yeah, so we have this kind of hybrid work model where we are kind of alternating between coming to office and working from home.
Mm-hmm.
So today is working from office day.
Ah, very good, very good. So you choose the day you want to come, you choose the day you want to stay back. Very
Yes,
interesting. That
everybody
applies to all levels of the organization, or is it only senior levels?
across,
That's
except
very
critical roles who have to be present, specifically teams of designers and other who deal with apparels on a daily basis,
right,
buying
right, right, right. Very good. Interesting. Superb. So, before we get started on the powerful book that you have taken, let me introduce you to the audience. Right. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whichever part of the world you are sitting and will be sitting when you listen to the guest of the day. All of you are part of Leaders in Library Season 1, which had 33 leaders globally coming and talking on 22 powerful books. Season 2 has 40 leaders globally coming and talking on 40 exclusive books, which is massive for a book lover like me. And today we have yet another guest with us, Mr. Saurabh Deshpande, Associate Vice President, Learning and Development at Shoppers Stop. And all of you who have been going to Shoppers Stop and shopping and have stopped for the last 1 year, you can start shopping at Shoppers Stop because now they have said we are no more Shoppers Stop, we are Shoppers Start, and we have started off. I think all the fantastic experience that all of us as customers that we get at the different stores of Shoppers Stop across the country, the customer focus, the capability that has been built in all those boys and girls that you see is done by Saurabh and his team of people in building capability. So great job done there by you and your team, Saurabh. Fabulous experience, always to walk in and out of Shoppers Stop.
Thank you so much, Rajiv. Thanks for those kind words. I'm sure shoppers have not stopped. They've just taken a brief pause. They continue to uh, shop over the online channel that we have.
Yeah,
But all
yeah.
those who are there on this interaction, watching us both, I would strongly urge you, you must experience the new revived Shopper Stop. All those who have been our loyal customers, by the way, we have one of the biggest loyalty base across all the country. And so those who are our loyal customers, my strong urge, please do continue to shower us with your love, the way you've done.
Absolutely. Anytime. We love Shopper Stop and we'll come back to the place once again. Now, let me introduce Saurabh to all of you. Saurabh, as I said, he leads learning and development for the organization, comes with 20 plus years of rock solid experience across retail, education, and banking industry. He is a specialist in the space of LNOD, change management, coaching, leadership capability building, anything that you can put your pin on when it comes to enabling human capital in an organization towards growth and performance. I think he does it beautifully well. I know him as a profession in the fraternity, plus also as a friend for over a decade now. He is also one of the leading master trainers from Dale Carnegie and Associates US, and a person whom you can reach for any help anytime. And what I know of Saurabh is beyond all these professional successes that he's had, he's an individual who's always open to take that one step forward and extend that one hand forward or both hands forward to help a person in need. That's the best thing that I like about Saurabh. Beyond all this, he's also an avid book reader. So it's a pleasure to have you on this event, Saurabh. Welcome on board.
Thank you, Rajiv. I'll show it to my wife. But yes, I must say that the pleasure is mine. I've been knowing you as well. One of the few individuals that I've met who's both sensitive as well as sensible. Somebody who is always craving for knowledge, and very few leaders are, both well-read and well-led. I think you are a balance of both. So it's my pleasure to be here on this platform, a wonderful platform that you've created. I must congratulate you and wish you all the best for this wonderful journey that you have. begin.
Thank you so much, Saurabh. Thank you so much. I think it's been a great experience for me as an entrepreneur. And we met many years back when I came to Mumbai, and we had a chat about what we could do differently. So it's always been good to talk with you and share with you my journey. So pleasure to have you once again today. Before we get started and talk on this powerful book that you have chosen for the day, my first question to you is, make you go back, rewind your life a little bit, and tell us, how early did books start and happen in your life? Were you a school going boy or a college going boy? How was it? Tell us a little bit about that story.
I think books, probably the reading part of it was more of a evolving phase, a evolution rather than happening in one go.
Mhm.
So as a child, I used to always go to my nana's place, my grandpa's place uh, in Mumbai, and he had a small shop where he used to run libraries as well, and he used to sell books. So it was a bookshop, and one of these days I just happened to accompany him. And when I entered his shop, so it was a very small shop. For a child, I felt like it was a magical place. I felt like a child lost in a candy store. I didn't know where to look at and where to stop at because there were very colorful different types of books. I was sitting on the heap of books and opened my first book, which was a kind of pop-up book, you know, and that experience was very magical as a child. So I think it began from there. Further, when I was during my school days, it was me and my eldest sister who were at home in the afternoon. And we didn't, thankfully, we didn't have televisions or cable or
I
anything.
know.
The only solace was reading books, and I think I was introduced to the comic world and the magazine world then. Um, Sometime around my teenage is where I had a close friend of mine, and we used to go to a place or take a walk together. We made it a point to go to a library and read.
Uh-huh.
That way, I got to meet my friend every day, and we happened to chat for long hours. So reading was all throughout. I would say just a what you can say, just a mean or a method to somehow get company or to get entertained. But over a period, when I entered the corporate world, I realized that reading is something which also evolves you as a leader, and I think
Right.
I got hooked on to reading as well since then. So
Lovely,
it's
lovely.
just
Look
like
how
that.
interesting the story is. Your grandfather, your sister, then the friend, all of them played such significant roles in keeping you connected with books or taking you back and again to the books, right? And the effect that books have had on you. So when all this happened and multiple times visit to libraries and reading books, and probably you started buying books also later, as you
Yes.
moved on to the Enid Blyton days and Robert Ludlum, Jeffrey Archer days, and would have gone to management books. Tell us, how did books play a significant role in evolving you as a leader, sir?
I think uh, when you were introducing me, also one of the things that you said that that ability or somewhere that value of giving back, and I think it comes from sharing, which is the
Hmm.
underlying value, and sharing only increases your value. So that came through knowledge sharing. I think books did couple of things to me. One, it taught me that okay, if you're willing to learn, there are people who are there to share, and if you start sharing you get all the more. So it kind of built that value. As a reader, I also felt that most of the people read books just to stay updated or maybe just to
Right.
entertain, but books open a lot of perspectives to you. They bring in a lot of different ways and ideas to look at things.
Hmm.
And so it just opened my mind further each time I read a particular book or somebody shared a book with me. So it made me that also. Very, very importantly, it plays on your emotional intelligence. What
Yeah.
makes me say that is you're not just taking the knowledge, but because you're open to
Hmm.
different perspectives, because you're willing to learn more,
Hmm.
makes you emotionally intelligent also. And I think all these are some of the values that I gathered, and I contribute that to reading a lot.
Fantastic. For all of your audience that I know, Saurabh, I can definitely tell you that one of the powerful books that he has read and all of you would have read is How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. And that I know of Saurabh all these years, I have not seen a streak of expression on his face that shows worry. I think he's only always living and always enjoying the moment. that he does. So that's a great quality that you have, Saurabh. I think it's all because of the amount of books that you have read and the kind of emotional stability that you have built within you, right? Beautiful, beautiful. So tell us a little about what made you choose this book, The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg, among all the powerful books that you have read.
So, when you asked me for the first time about this, and you mentioned that I had choice, it was very difficult because there are so many books which have inspired you, right from The Secret to, let's say, something as Da Vinci Code, to something as What You Hear Won't Get You There, Good to Great, all
Yeah.
those. So there's an entire span which I had in front of me, and I didn't know how to go about it. But when I reflected back, I thought that most of the books told me about some tips, some perspective. Most of the books gave me some case study from corporate or from sports and other places. But very few books which actually made me reflect,
Hmm.
made me look back at me. And I think this book, The Power of Habit,
Yeah.
here,
Yeah.
uh,
Even I have it somewhere here. Let me also show it along with you.
yeah, it comes with a hardbound orange color back as
Yes.
well. But this book really kind of put, uh, so to say, CCTV camera on me. It made me look at how I have built my habits.
Hmm.
What was I used to on a daily basis? What were some of my automatic moves? And it actually made me, ponder and reflect back. So therefore, I thought this was one of those
Lovely.
most powerful books if
Lovely.
somebody
Lovely.
wants to.
Absolutely. I think one of the go-to books when it comes to habit formation and people want to learn a little bit about good habits and leaving some bad habits that they want to leave. I think this is a good go-to book for a lot of people. Lovely. Let's quickly delve into a couple of topics that the author is talking. And I'm very very aware that 45 minutes is not enough to do justice to this book, but let's touch on a couple of things which I thought was very interesting, and I believe would be valuable to the young leaders when they listen to you from your experience, right? The first one, the author very beautifully says that habits are powerful but delicate. And he talks about this in a very powerful concept called the habit loop. So tell us a little about what is this habit loop and why is it important for young leaders to acknowledge the fact that habits are delicate as well.
So I'll answer it in two parts because there are two questions over here. Number one, when we look at habits, our justification is I don't know, it just happens.
Yeah.
Somebody tells you have this habit of doing this or doing that, and when we reflect back, we say, "Oh, really, do I have that habit?" But when we actually closely monitor and we realize that yes, I do have that habit, but I don't know how is it coming out. Uh, I think this book gives a very beautiful framework.
Mm.
Many other books like you have Atomic Habits, you have Triggers, which revolve around habits. But I think this book gives the framework of that. And this framework is very, very simple. That's one reason why I love this book. There's no jargon, there's no hi-fi language. Um,
Mm.
the point is made and validated in each chapter, which is the loop. The loop is very simple, Ravi. It says that there are three stages of a habit. One is a cue, which could be a trigger or a starting point. It's some spark which actually where you feel like doing a particular action. So that's called cue.
Mm.
Then the action itself, which is your habit,
Mm.
where it does. And third is what reward do you get? So why
Mm.
do you do that action? You get some kind of a tangible or intangible reward of that, some
Right.
kind of feeling or some kind of emotion that actually overrides it. So Charles Duhigg talks about this very simple loop which
Mm.
surrounds the habit. And over a period, he adds the fourth dimension, which is that if this habit continues for longer
Mm.
time, then it
Mm.
becomes a craving. You just can't
Uh-huh.
away without it. Uh,
Right.
and since you can't do with it, so you just continue. So that's a loop. Each time there is a cue, you get into that action, you get that reward, which validates your action, and you go on. Now,
Mm.
why does the author say that it is delicate?
Mm.
Very powerful. Habits,
Yeah.
we say that habits die hard or
Mm.
habits eat man. But why is it called delicate? Is because most of the cues that you will see are generally outside.
Right.
One of the examples Charles Duhigg gives is McDonald's.
Mm.
Whenever you think of McDonald's, what comes to your mind? The first thing that comes to your mind,
Okay.
right? And even before the burger, what is served to you?
What is?
Served to you.
French fries?
Yes, that's the aroma you actually get pulled into because of. So the golden arches that you and when you enter the store, that first whiff of the fries is what is the cue. You know that creates the craving for you.
Yeah.
Now, if you notice, this is a cue which is outside your environment. You have not built it.
Hmm.
It just triggered you. Let's assume that you're passing by the same road, and now that store is relocated somewhere else. You
Hmm.
don't see those golden arches. You don't see the store.
Hmm.
One may get disappointed, one may feel bad about it, but you still are not frustrated. You don't crave that, oh my god, I missed having this burger.
True.
So that way you're okay with that. You feel
Hmm.
disappointed, but you won't feel a craving about it. And therefore,
Hmm.
author says that though habits are powerful, they can be changed if the cues are changed, and if you take consciously certain actions. They are so delicate that they can be molded back.
They can be changed. Oh, beautiful. That's very, very nice. This is which is also very interesting because the author also, as an extension of this conversation in the book, says that there are people who want to remove a bad habit, and they've been struggling for years in doing that for whatever reason. Maybe the cues are so strong, or the routines have formed so strong that I'm not able to pull myself out of it. You and me know about smokers who say, I've been trying this for many years, I've come back to smoking, I've been trying this for many years, yet unsuccessful. He also says that you can't extinguish a bad habit, you can only change it. What is your interpretation of this, and how should young leaders understand this?
So again, in two parts, I'll
Yeah.
try and answer that. See, when we read this book, the first thing that comes to a mind of a reader who's going to pick up this book, that this seems to be a self-help book,
Hmm.
right? Because it talks about habits, so maybe they are talking of a personal habit, they're talking of a personal level. When you open the book and read it for a while, you feel it's more of a neuroscience and a research book with a lot of neuroscience language. But when you dwell deeper into this, dig deeper, you realize that the author has given any number of case studies
Hmm.
across different categories, right from psychology to sports to corporates to government to society. And
Hmm.
that's what makes it really powerful. So he gives a number of examples where he tries to prove that how research has also shown that the habits can't be broken, but those
Hmm.
replaced. Now, what I mean by that is, let's say if there is a particular habit one have. Let's take
Hmm.
example of smoking or
Right.
being able to exercise, getting up late. Uh, the author says that most of the time, the cue
Hmm.
and reward is what the mind is used to.
Correct.
There is a cue, and you think of a reward, and to
Hmm.
get that reward is the action.
Hmm.
To change the action, keeping the cue and the reward same, then
Hmm.
it can be easily molded. Therefore,
Hmm.
again, connecting to the first point that habits are powerful, but they are delicate.
Delicate.
Good. So you keep the queue, you keep the reward same. I'll give an example from corporate world itself. Uh, so one of our team members,
Hmm.
he had a habit of so he came with a very vast experience, strong
Hmm.
knowledge base, and a long tenure in the organization.
Hmm.
And he was used to do process training, and he believed that this is the only way one can change or one can add value. All these
Okay.
behavioral trainings are soft skills.
Hmm.
So each time we pushed him that no, you need to also experience this, you also need to train people on this, there was a resistance. Um, we tried to push him, and obviously it didn't work because people defend, they want
Hmm.
to show that my habit is fine.
Right.
So what we did was we kept the queue, which was the same. So the queue was each time he went into a training room and saw a participant group, that was the queue. Or
Hmm.
when he was attending a meeting, that was the queue. We kept the queue same. We
Hmm.
kept the environment same. The reward
Hmm.
was very simple. The reward was the participants' feedback or
Right.
participants. A lovely program, or this was really a memorable program. So we said that your purpose is to add value to your participants. You want participants to say that this program made a difference in my life, and you want a particular setting in a classroom. We manage all of that. Let's just try along with process. Why don't you also tell that how does this process affect the behavior? So we
Right.
just did the behavior part of it in beginning, and over a period when he got the feedback from the first program, where all the participants say that I was just looking at this process as a mere process. I,
Hmm.
it gave me a different perspective when I'm looking at my behavior. I'm
Hmm.
going to change. That entire dimension changed.
Right.
Beyond a particular time, he started enjoying behavioral programs.
Hmm.
Till the time he was there, he continued behavioral programs. Uh,
Beautiful.
so what we did was habits can be changed, and the author gives a number of examples. He gives the examples of alcoholics. He gives an example from corporate worlds where
Hmm.
CEO changed the entire way of functioning
Yeah.
of a company. He gives examples of corporate like Starbucks. So, number of examples to support this. You
Hmm.
can only change the habit. You cannot say it's bad and it has to be changed. So, don't try to change people. Try to change their actions.
I think that's a very powerful lesson for young leaders, right? No, if they can focus and bring the dimensional change in their head, it will be great value for them and also for the team members, isn't it?
So,
It may not be a quick fix. It will take some time and effort, but in long run, it still pays off.
Yes, it does. What also happens is I've seen whenever there is a new leader who comes in, he or she tries to decredit the earlier one.
Hmm.
Says that there was something wrong happening and let me change this entire thing. So the first step we start with is whatever is happening till now is all wrong. Just let's replace this, and that is where he or she would meet a lot of resilience, a lot of defense, a lot of resentment from
Hmm.
people. I think so. Let's try and see that we keep the cues and the reward same in mind, interact with people, and then try to see how we can bring about a change in the actions,
Right.
not
Right.
behaviors.
I think that's a very powerful point for all the lateral interns in organizations. You know, they think they've come with so much more and they're going to completely topsy turvy change the organization 180 degrees. Soon to realize that they are standing all alone, and the entire team is supposed to stand behind them and actually standing in front of them facing them. And then
True.
that hits them so hard, right? I think it's a very powerful point that you said, Saurabh. All young leaders, I want to call it off for you to reflect on this, that when you join organizations or pick up a new role, it's not about changing the entire system or the set of people. There's a lot of background good work that has gone just about making certain small changes so that people can create some habit change and eventually do what you want to do for the organization as a new member. Very, very powerful one. This also takes me to a similar topic, that when this man comes in or the lady comes in, there's a huge team that he or she would start handling, and it's a new environment, a new community that they have to start working into. Author also says that habits are because of certain beliefs, strong belief systems. But he also says that belief is easier to ensure that it occurs within a community, and then there'll be a larger habit change that happens instead of individual. So, how do you see this phrase that belief is easier when it occurs within a community? As a leader, how should we understand this phrase?
Uh, so we as a human being, I think we
Hmm.
look for a validation always externally. There is
Yes.
evolved individuals who don't require validation. Maybe we are putting it as a Facebook status or a DP that I don't require validation. All said and done, but heart in heart, there is an external validation everyone looks at. An individual is looking at appreciation from others.
Oh,
Uh,
yes.
uh, a leader is looking for recognition from his team. For that matter, organizations looks at validation. So for
Hmm.
example, market is responding well. Now that's the
Hmm.
validation. Profit is nothing else but impact that you've made on customer.
Right.
Engagement is nothing else but the impact you've made on employee. So when they validate, when they respond positively, all that happens is you get that confidence. Your belief just gets stronger. Now, validation also can be negative, where some people feel, I'm like this, I'm no good. And each time some instance happen, you turn around and say, see, I told you, I'm not good.
Hmm.
Our products are not good. See, I told you, research showed that our products,
Hmm.
our
Hmm.
customer service is sucking. So you just validate to prove your point. So we are looking out for external validation. But if those beliefs or those things need to be validated,
Hmm.
then you just, to begin with, you just require one more person to say
Right. Hmm.
you are doing the right. So here the author is not talking of a community which is a larger group. It can be even one other person who gives you
Hmm.
confidence, or who says, who validates your thought, and then it is just a ripple effect.
Hmm.
The more people who validate your thought, the more belief gets stronger.
Hmm.
And this is a example of alcoholics, how
Hmm.
they have changed just because somebody else said you can do it. In the gym, when you are exercising, the other person, the coach is telling you, yes, one more, you can do it. And that is a strong belief that as a leader also you need to constantly give to your team members, to the peers around, that
Hmm.
it's okay, let's give it a try. It's okay to commit mistake, because then this belief that yes, we can do it. Uh, you know, World Cup again, classic example. You started with one person, but when others started validating it, it became a community belief, and that's how.
True.
So I think author very rightly points out. Charles said beautifully that beliefs actually can be strengthened with the community support, and you just need to build around that, around it.
Very true. Yeah, this is a very interesting topic because it's not easy for a leader, right? Whether an existing leader or a new leader, creating this belief and ensuring that it happens in a community level. It's not easy. It calls for a lot of effort and a slow and steady step-by-step effort by the leader, isn't it?
Yes, it is a
Yeah.
slow and steady thing. It can't happen overnight,
Very true.
because your belief, the other person's also has a belief, right, of his own, which has been
Right.
stronger. That belief, longer time would be taken to turn around that.
Right, right. So I have one question, Saurabh, which just cropped in my head. So when a leader successfully creates a belief from an individual to a community kind of a belief, is it that the effort of the leader to create a culture? Can we call it that he's created a culture now in the organization? Can we interpret it that way?
Very, very valid question, especially in the current context when we are talking of culture.
Hmm.
Very important part today. We are talking of change management, which again involves belief of the community. If you notice, to me, in a very simplistic term, culture is nothing else but what my boss asks me every day.
Hmm.
If my manager is asking me figures every day, the next day when I come, I am ready with the figures. And that's what I will tell all my team members also. And that's how the communication flows. But if my boss asks me every day, how are you doing?
Hmm.
Maybe fourth or fifth day, I'll just turn around and ask my team member, how are you doing? How are you?
Hmm.
So culture is nothing else but what a leader asks his team member. And it just becomes a habit.
Right.
Habit actually in turn makes the entire thing, right?
True, true, true. And when it enlarges and goes from one to two to many, kind of becomes the culture of the organization, right?
Yes, just look in meetings. Let's take this framework and try and fit.
Hmm.
The cue is there is a meeting setup.
Hmm.
Person who enters, we know that how this person is going to behave and what he is going to
True,
ask.
true.
So the habit is I'll be ready with the thing that he or she wants. Maybe a
Correct.
pie chart, maybe some numbers
Hmm.
ready, maybe an Excel sheet, maybe a
Hmm.
fancy presentation.
Hmm.
That's the action, that's the habit.
Hmm.
And the reward is when this person says, oh, that was nice.
Hmm.
Now I know for sure that okay, I have inched uh, closer to my promotion.
Beautiful example.
So
Very true.
that becomes the culture. Why is it that people start dressing the way the boss dresses? Why is it that people start behaving the way managers behave? It's all that you. It's the framework that.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Fantastic. Very, very nicely answered. So I'm going to take you to the next one, Saurabh. Uh, he talks about he actually allocates one complete chapter to the Starbucks story, which was very, very fascinating for me. It's a different matter that sometime I go to Starbucks and spend 900 bucks, 600 bucks as a shit when बहुत महंगा है, ये नहीं पी सकता मैं. So I go back to Udupi and drink a 10 rupee coffee. That's besides the story. But
So
Starbucks is definitely a story of like the McDonald, Ray Kroc, what he created, and Starbucks is a different story completely. In this story, he talks about a very interesting one, which was very powerful when I read it. He says, when willpower becomes automatic. I thought this was a beautiful combination of words and a very powerful sentence hence emerged.
yes,
I have two questions. The first part of the question is, what was the biggest lesson from the Starbucks story for you that young leaders should understand by reading the book? Two, what does it mean when he says when willpower becomes automatic?
Sure. Uh, this was very, very inspiring chapter for me as well, because when I read, all that we know is that, okay, this is a place which serves coffee. It is in a business of coffee serving people. The CEO actually talks about, no, we are in a business of people serving coffee,
Uh,
to the other way around, and that got my attention. That look at the way he's talking about his business, and I think that was the way Starbucks has transformed its employees.
true.
The chapter says talks about alumni, gives case studies of how people have transformed, people with difficult lives and really complicated routines and lives, so many challenges back at their home. They keep all those personal challenges and serve the customer with the same kind of a delight, same kind of smile. How do you build in that system, robust system? It also made me think back to their partner, which is obviously the right partner, the Tatas.
Yeah, yeah.
Why is it that Tata and Starbucks? Because the ideology is meet. Tata also very strongly believe about their customer, and Taj incident is just a strong endorsement of their values.
Very true. Very
I
true.
think because he talks about the ability of willpower over a period, you can, you may come out of a habit, but why is it that we keep on going back to the older habit?
That's a very powerful question.
Yeah. Why is that some people actually are able to overcome that? And that difference is the willpower. So this
Mm.
chapter he talks about willpower is somewhere where the person now wants to make a difference.
Mm.
She does not require an instruction or a cue externally. The cue is within me. I want to make a difference.
Mm.
I have that willpower. I will regularly exercise. Nobody has to. I don't even need a alarm. I'll get up on my own time.
Very
I don't
true.
require anyone to push me to take those decisions. I will do it on my own. I don't have to comply to any process. I believe it, so I will do it. So I
Mm.
think this shift from compliance to commitment happens because of willpower. And
Mm.
this is automatic because it's driven to me. I don't require someone to tell me.
Very true.
Now, give a powerful example of Starbucks and how a person with a traumatic life actually endured that and actually still continue to give very good service and evolve or develop as an individual. So he's now
Mm.
become a manager and handling a couple of other stores. So as leader, I think you can only bring about that willpower in your team member when you give them autonomy, when you give them.
Uh,
I think Daniel Pink also talks about the things that motivate people, and one of
yes.
the things is autonomy. So when
Yes.
people have their own free space where they can take their own decision within the limited
Mm.
authority they have, but they get that freedom to do that. They would do it with a lot of moral sense, with a lot of integrity, and with a lot of intellect too. So I think
Mm.
autonomy is something that we need to give, especially when we are now dealing with Gen Z, who are
I know.
habituated to make their own choices. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you leave the choice to them and just build in that willpower that yes, you can do it, and this is our common purpose for which we all need to do. Leave the liberty to them, and the willpower is automatic.
Very
That's
true.
that's
Very
what
true.
this chapter actually throws a light on.
Actually, I just taking this conversation a little ahead. Many years back, I read this very powerful sentence which said that a leader cannot motivate another person. I said, what is this? We keep talking about a leader should motivate, and here the person says that a leader cannot motivate. Then I read a little further. It said a leader cannot motivate an individual, but he can only create an environment within which the individual can become self-motivated. I said this was a marvelous piece of shift in my own head, which is very similar to this, right? I can't create a willpower within Saurabh, or you can't do it within me. When I create that environment around you with the belief of a community and all that, automatically it starts happening from within, isn't it?
A lot of us associate motivation with some kind of a tangible thing.
Uh,
But take anything. I personally believe that motivation is nothing else but anything that gives hope and faith.
True.
Let's talk about money as a motivation. When I get money, I have this hope that okay, I will be able to enhance my lifestyle, and I have this faith that now I can afford certain things. When a CEO tells that yes, business is coming back, booming, and stores are picking up, he is giving that hope and faith. And as a leader, you constantly need to give that hope and faith, which says that yes, we can do it. You can do it. I have trust in you. I have faith in you. And then the willpower just becomes automatic.
I know, I know. You took the example of the gym. So when I go for the workout in the morning, I've got a coach who's teaching 3 guys in my community. So they are at the number 12. They're like, I can't. This man pushes it. 3 more, 2 more, 1 more. I'm like, yes, we do it. So magical something when I observe that. Amazing, amazing. Beautiful, beautiful, beautifully said. So that brings me to the last question of this lovely conversation. I would love to speak a lot about this book, but the format permits me this much, Saurabh. With all the years of experience that you have garnered on the global consulting platform that I know you have been, and the corporate side, if I can kind of put all together, squeeze it into one glass of experience of Saurabh Deshpande, plus this book, what would be two laser sharp advices that you would want to give the young leaders on this platform?
I think leadership. When we talk about leadership, everybody has their own definition, and everybody is right. Some would say that you need to be a part of team. Some would say you need to push the team. Some would say you need to lead the team. And therefore, I feel leadership is nothing else but an opinion.
Hmm.
Everybody has it, and everybody is right because they are talking of their own experience. So, if you think as a leader, I would take this audacity to say it's not just responsibility; it's actually a burden because
Hmm.
your decision, this is your behavior, your habits are impacting your team.
True.
When you are at home as a parent, your habits are impacting your children. As a son, your habits are impacting your parents. So
Yeah.
everywhere, wherever you are taking the lead, your habits are impacting others. And I
Very
think
true.
the more we are reflective about our habits, the more we are looking back at our habits, and the more we take charge of our habits, the
Hmm.
more we'll be able to take a charge on the impact that we have on others. I was actually listening to this interview of Sonu Sood yesterday.
Hmm. Hmm.
I mentioned that. Now, on one hand, he has entire 20 years of experience as an actor, and this past 6 months, the number of endorsements and the number of people he is attached to is equivalent to what he would not have done in
Very
those
true.
20, because the impact he had, the positive impact he had on the people. And I think that would be my first advice. That and I would not say advice, but I think that's something which I strongly believe you may want to test it. That whatever you are doing, if you think about the impact of it, your decisions would be more rational.
Lovely. Lovely. Second
That
one.
that would be my first share. And the second thing would I would like to share is words, the kind of words we use. I would probably take this again liberty to say the words like razor sharp advice. I would probably very strong word to use, but we use very strong word. We said this is deadline, as if you don't do these things, you're dead. We say, okay, gentle reminder, which is an oxymoron. When we are saying, no, this is a cutthroat competition. All these are words which are actually instilling fear, which are instilling aggression in the minds of the team. You need not say that. One can always say that we are just away from timelines or let's do this. More positive language
Very true.
can have a lot of impact on the way people think, just as the way we deal with our children. The kind of words we will use, their mindset will be impacted, and that actually that those words become the cue,
Ah, beautifully connected.
the power of habit. So choose your words, make them very positive, and you will see positivity just flowing out from others also.
Beautiful, beautiful. That was just bullseye. And what less can I expect from Saurabh Deshpande? Thank you so much, Saurabh, for beautifully summarizing this. I thoroughly enjoyed this 45 minutes of conversation. I
Yeah.
would have loved to continue on and on as always. I hope you had a good time, Saurabh.
Thank you so much, Rajiv. Pleasure is completely mine for all those who have taken time that do look at this ability and power of books and do join in this movement. Thank you so much, Rajiv.
Thank you
Pleasure is
so much. I look forward to seeing you when I'm flying Tech City. Till then, take care. Bye bye.
bye bye.